Hello and welcome. So, the Combat Patrol for the Astra Militarum has been leaked, shown in a Codex review, and it is exactly the same as the Cadia Stands army set. There is no deviation of models from the army set, which makes the Astra Militarum box not the money-saving box that most Combat Patrols are. Rather than complain about that, I'd rather talk about the times Games Workshop has duplicated a box for the Combat Patrol boxes. It is the first time that nothing has actually been added or slightly changed for a Combat Patrol box, however. The first and least known duplication is Adeptus Mechanicus Combat Patrol box. This box has a Dune Crawler, 10 Scutari, 3 breaches, and a Tech Priest engine sear. The first Dark Collecting Scutari, as it was called, this cheap box, and it was cheap at £55, had the Dune Crawler and 10 Scutari and an Archpriest Dominus. Adding the breaches and swapping the Archpriest for the engine sear actually made the Combat Patrol box less value for money. Also, why did they swap a Archpriest for an engine sear? Look, it doesn't even use up a slot if you know how to use it properly. With Deathwatch Combat Patrol box, this box is not one of my favourites. Complete infantry and no vehicles. You get a lieutenant, apothecary, and 10 intercessors and 3 aggressors. Of course, you get the Deathwatch sprues. Almost identical to the Start Collecting Primaris Space Wolves. This is the second Start Collecting Space Wolves box, and it was not as fun as the first. The first had Blood Claws and Wolf Riders, I think they're called. Anyway, you got to ride wolves. Anyway, in the Start Collecting Primaris Space Wolves, you got the Battle Lord instead of the Lieutenant and Apothecary. And of course, the Space Wolf Sprue. Because you couldn't have a Deathwatch one now, could you? This box was £65, and adding this Apothecary made it slightly more than the Combat Patrols were back then. So, the Combat Patrol box was actually slightly better value, I believe by like £1.50. Leagues of Votan, yes, the new boys on the scene, or rather the old boys just getting a new release. So the army set, which I didn't like and still don't, had most of the same units as the new Combat Patrol. The named character has now been dropped, and a squad of half-kin warriors being swapped for berserkers. Look, I'm not going to say much more else. It is a new faction, so the Leagues of Votan do not have the range of other factions. Finally, the Sisters of Battle. They had a complete range refresh with an army set. This set included 10 Sisters, a Repentia Superior with 4 Repentia, 5 Seraphim, 3 Archiflagellants, a Penitent Engine, and a new Canoness. The Combat Patrol box added a Rhino. So, if you got a vehicle with it too, again a relatively small faction at the time, which only had a few new kits for 9th, so there was not much more they could really do. Games Workshop is also a business, so they are trying to save money. So if they could put all of this on a couple of sprues, of course they're going to do it. It is just business after all. Now, the point I wanted to get across is when Games Workshop wants to duplicate a set, they will at least add something or change something. The cases where the factions are newer and they haven't got the range, it's easy to excuse the duplication. So why are the Astra Militarum getting the same treatment? Honestly, I don't know. They have a huge range of miniatures, and up until recently, the Cadian Defence Force, which was a money-saving budget army, this would have been great in a Combat Patrol box. You can almost duplicate the box for £26 more using a mixture of Catachans and old Cadian models, replacing the field batteries with the heavy weapons team. The £26 is pretty much the command squad, just so you know. Look, I don't know why they haven't added anything new. Adding a Chimera or a Lehman Russ would have been great. And also the Sentinel really stands out in the vehicles we have had in the Combat Patrol boxes. The Rhino being the weakest, and we've had everything up to a Dread Knight, and the Flyer for the Necrons. Maybe Games Workshop are just wanting Astra Militarums to go down the Cadian model route. Maybe these army sets are just going to be the Combat Patrol Plus codex and cards for the factions from now on, which we can see when the World Eaters box comes out. And it just seems for an extra £2.50, if like me you don't want the cards, you can get the new models by being patient. People who bought the army said have to be patient anyway, as the new codex is not legal until the full release. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe as always, and leave a links to Whaling Games to save money. Free delivery over £20. Forbidden Planet if you like comics. Forbidden my comic as well, and of course t-shirts and Patreon, which I never use. And as always, treat yourself to something nice rather than just giving me money. I'm going to have to burn this video out to 8 minutes. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great day.